Hey everyone, I'm Matt, and these are my top 5 tips for writing a novel. Number one is go into novel writing with the mindset that you are typing, that you're not necessarily writing a novel. Look at it as I'm going to spend this portion of time per day typing. Because the idea of writing a novel it can be very daunting, but if you're just staring at the keyboard or staring at your computer and you're just letting your thoughts go and you're typing up a storm, you're going to get that word count up. And if you string that together for enough days, for enough weeks, you're eventually going to have a novel length manuscript. So that takes kind of the edge off a little bit. If you're just like, all right, I'm going to set aside this amount of time a day. I'm just going to, grind it out on the keyboard. Um, I'm not thinking it in terms of like writing an actual story. So, tip number 2, utilize the Pomodoro method. Now, this is key for people who lose focus quickly, who get distracted easily. Um, this is something that has helped me manage my time very well. I can I can focus on writing for 2 hours a day on days when I can on days when I have 2 hours. Um, and I could really have all my attention invested in writing for those 2 hours. And what the Pomodoro method is basically a timer. It's basically setting a timer for yourself where you have intervals of 25 minutes separated by 5-minute breaks. So for 25 minutes, you're going to do nothing but type your story. And then you get 5 minutes to check your phone or pour yourself another cup of coffee or water or whatever you have to do, go to the bathroom, whatever. And then you go back into another 25-minute interval where all you do is type. And you do that for at least, I would try aim for at least 4 25-minute intervals. So that's 100 minutes of just straight writing. And you can definitely bang out like a good 1,000 words easy if you're really in a good groove, which you will get into if you keep at it. Writing gets easier the more you do it and the more practice you get. So type and utilize a strategy for focus and attention, such as the Pomodoro method, which I highly recommend. Tip number 3, set up plot points. You don't have to outline your story. I know some people will spend, way too much time thinking about an outline for their whole story. That is challenging. It's possible, but it's challenging. It leaves room for a lot of self-doubt, a lot of second guessing, and a lot of the times you don't even get to the point where you're ready to even sit down and write the novel. So, um, while I believe firmly in having plot points, which are necessary for a story to work, for a story to have a skeleton, for it to not be boring, not sag, for it to have a satisfying ending, you definitely need plot points and you should signpost them at certain word counts. The 5 plot points that I think are the most important are the hook, which is your opening scene. In that scene, you want to introduce your character, your main character, kind of like in a situation that will kind of almost foreshadow what the rest of the novel is going to be. So if you want to write like about, for example, Indiana Jones, I'm not sure which Indiana Jones it is. I think it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. It starts off with like a mini adventure inside the bigger adventure that is the movie. You got Indiana Jones being really heroic. He outwits his opponents, but somehow falls short in the end. And that's kind of like what the whole movie is. I mean, he usually comes through at the end in the full movie, but it gives a taste of like what you're going to expect. So use the hook to make your promise for what the rest of the story is going to be. So be like, this is my main character. They're going to be in this situation, which is going to show what they're in store for the rest of the novel. That's the first plot point that I think is very important. The second is the inciting incident, and that's when the main character steps into a new world, a new situation, a new high school, a new job, something they're forced into that they can't go back. The higher the stakes are, the more of an opposing force to get them out there into that world, the more invested your readers will be in what they're going to do. What the hell is this person going to do? So that's the inciting incident. That's very important. After that, comes the midpoint for me. There's definitely spaces in between the inciting incident and the midpoint that can enhance your story. But I think when you're just starting out, like, work towards a midpoint. Work towards a point in the novel where your character is going to be like, oh, now I know how to cope with this situation, and now I have to go after it and get it. And think about a twist or a turn at the midpoint of your novel where the reader kind of like the main character takes on an active role in solving a crime, in fighting back against a monster or something, or or even like some things that I like to happen in the midpoint personally are genre changes where you think it's one type of movie, or you think you believe one thing throughout the whole movie, and then you get to the middle and you're like, oh my god, this is a great plot twist. So the midpoint's a good place for a plot twist, if it's done right. So now you have three. You have the hook, the inciting incident, and the midpoint. The next one that popped in my head was a catastrophe, which is like starts at the last 25% of your novel. This is where the main character fails, or all is lost, kind of, and they're really at a crucial point where it's like a make or break situation for the main character. You want to make it, that's a good point in time for like the main character's best friend to die, or like something really bad. I mean, I know it sounds horrible, but like that's where you want the audience to feel really bad for your character, to almost like doubt their success, which is gonna in turn lead to the climax, which is the main character basically like coming back and finally, or not, depending on what kind of novel you want to write, but the climax is where you want the character to resolve the issue that they're facing. And then after that's resolution, where you tie up any loose threads. So, those are my 5 plot points that you should signpost. So the hook is the opening scene. The inciting incident is about 10 to 20%. Midpoint's 50%. Catastrophe could be like 75, 80%. And then the climax and resolution happens relatively quickly after that. So if you're doing like a 60,000 word novel, which is a good aim for a word count, I would even bump it up to like almost 80,000 words, because you're going to probably want to edit it down afterwards. So just to do a quick run back. So you're typing. You're using the Pomodoro method. You know what plot points you're working towards. And that brings me to 4, which is don't stop at just one manuscript. Write more, write 3 manuscripts. I know what you're thinking, like, Matt, it's hard enough to write one novel. What do you mean, write three or four? Um, I'm saying that because chances are your first one's not going to be good. Uh, Odds are it's going to be bad, especially if you're just kind of writing at the seat of your pants. But that's okay, because that's how we learn. You have to practice. Nobody stepped into you know, a batter's box and was suddenly like hitting home runs, or no one, there's no hockey player that's never ice skated before and just stepped in the ring and in the rink and just started playing hockey really well. Like, you have to start somewhere. And in writing, you have to create your own starting point. You have to have that work in front of you first. You have to make that work first. Like, you don't just have it. You have to make it first. It's like if you were a sculptor, you couldn't sculpt if you didn't have clay. You'd have to have the clay first. In writing, you have to make that clay, literally. So that's what your manuscripts are, is just clay, and it's, you mold it into what you want it to be, and you get more skilled at it with more practice you get. Which brings me to number 5, and that's my personal favorite, and that's daydream. Because daydreaming is where my ideas come from. I'm assuming most writers get their ideas from daydreaming. One of the things I do is I like to write first thing in the morning. I'll put on my headphones. I'll set up a timer. I'll do 1 or 2 Pomodoro sessions, and I'll write as much as I can. And then I have the whole rest of the day to daydream about these characters I just wrote. This is the situation that they're in. I'm driving to work. I'm thinking about, oh, maybe this will happen. Maybe that'll happen. That's how some really good ideas come into play. And take notes. I have a whole bunch of notes on my phone. Sometimes I write it on Post-it notes. But yeah, I mean, if you write for 2 hours a day, that leaves you another 22 hours where you can just think about what you're going to write the following day. So definitely daydream. I do believe in that. So just to run back through my top 5 unique writing tips. Type, don't write. You're not writing a novel yet. You're getting there. You're practicing. You're going to have a manuscript eventually. So you're typing. You're using the Pomodoro method, or you're using some kind of method to help you focus. You're closing the blinds. You're, putting on your headphones. You are focused for 2 hours where you're just typing. You're signposting your plot points. So it's like, all right, I'm typing the hook right now. Like, this is the hook. This is what I had planned for the hook to be. And just go. And then I'm working towards the inciting incident, which is where my character falls down a rabbit hole. All right, so this is my hook. We're leading towards the rabbit hole. Inciting incident. There we are. And then we got to work to the midpoint. Okay, so they've fallen down the rabbit hole, and they're in this new world, and they're trying to get their bearings, and they don't know what they're doing, and they make friends along the way, and suddenly they understand what this world is, and there's a queen that wants to cut everybody's head off. So now, this is obviously Alice in Wonderland, but I don't know where I got Alice in Wonderland from. I don't really know. But that's the point I'm trying to make by signposting your plot points. Come up with a little description for each plot point. And then when you're done, just keep writing. Just write another one. Save it, go back to it later. A lot of writers do that. A lot of writers will save manuscripts and publish it years later. Sometimes established writers will go back and they'll be like, you know what? I'm Stephen King. This manuscript I wrote when I was 16. It sucked then, but now I'm better. So let me go back, make it better, and publish that shit. That, it happens all the time. Just keep writing manuscripts. Keep at it. And 5 is daydream. That's where you get all your ideas from. And those are my 5 tips. Thank you, and have a great night or day or whenever. Okay, bye.